Ok, allora, buonasera a tutti, and hello everyone. And my name is Laura Cambriani. I'm an Education USA and Fulbright advisor based in Rome. And with me today, there's my colleague Federica. Federica covers Southern Italy, and I'm in charge for Central and Northern Italy. With us today, we are very happy to have Antonia Burman. She's the representative of Minerva Schools, and today she will explain us something very interesting about Minerva University, which is a unique university and a very recent university. So Antonia is an alumna. When did you graduate from Minerva?
2020, so last year.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Antonia recently graduated. And so everything she will say for us is even more meaningful and relevant because it's something that she experienced. And so I'm very happy to have you here. We are very happy to have you here. And so you can share the screen and start the webinar. And so without further ado, let's give the scene to Antonia. And I will mute myself.
Wonderful. Just a quick question. Can everybody see the slides? Okay.
I do.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Sometimes there's just some technical glitches, so I wanted to make sure everyone can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so welcome everybody, and welcome to people who are watching later on. Yes, as we said, I'm Antonia. Nice to meet you. I am a previous alum of Minerva Schools, and I am currently the outreach representative for Western Europe. So I just kind of help students in Western Europe learn about Minerva and answer any questions that they might have, and just explain kind of what it was like to attend and the application process and things like that. So today I will be giving you a overview of what Minerva is, what it was like to attend, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We have some time at the end for Q&A, but I'll just wait until the end to answer the questions so that it doesn't interrupt the presentation. But feel free to put it in the chat and then I will come to it at the very end. Okay, so without further ado, we will begin. There we go. So basically the whole point of the Minerva experience is to try and create global leaders and global citizens. And basically what we're trying to do is encourage the next generation to not only learn, but become active and become influential in their communities, in their countries, in their spheres. So basically what we do is we try and train them up to be able to go off and pursue whatever they want to do, whether that's in government or whether that's a business, career aspect, career path, or anything that they really want to do, but we want to make sure that they have the skills and the experience to be able to do so. So how we do that is basically through education. Of course, we're a university, so that's kind of our main tool and our main gift to give. What we try and do is give students the skills that they will need to thrive in whatever field that they will be working in. So that's, for example, using knowledge and using wisdom, cognitive skills, communication skills, leadership skills, negotiation, lots of different things that you will be guaranteed to be using no matter what kind of field you end up in. So what are these skills more specifically? We break it down into 4 different skill buckets or fields, basically. The first one is critical thinking, and that's how to analyze a problem, how to figure things out, how to make decisions, how to really understand the crux of a situation. The next one is creative thinking. So once you've understood the problem, how do you solve it? How do you solve it in a creative way that perhaps people haven't thought of before? How do you understand how to think outside the box with regards to whatever problem or situation that you are attempting to solve? The next one is effective communication. Can you talk to people? Can you negotiate? Can you talk in various forms, such as written forms, spoken forms, nonverbal? Do you understand the different types of communication in terms of use of media, use of video, use of podcasts? Do you understand how different types of mediums affect different audiences and different contexts? A lot of different understanding of communication, and also skill building of communication. And then the last part is effective interaction. So for example, how can you work in a team? Again, understanding people, understanding how people think. So you're able to use that knowledge and use that skill to be able to be a good leader, but also a good team worker, which is crucial in any sort of job sector. So how do we do this? Basically, what we do is we try and teach skills in two broad frameworks. The first one is habits of mind. Basically, ways of thinking, how to understand something and change your framework of thinking. So for example, we say here, mental abilities that become automatic through deliberate practice. So for example, just changing the way that you see problems, rather than thinking, oh, this is a problem, I'm going to look at it and try and solve it in one way. After Minerva, you'll be learning lots of different ways to approach things. So when you do see a problem, you'll be able to understand there are lots of different ways to approach it, and your mindset will automatically kind of change because you kind of had that practice of going over lots of different ways to approach problems and situations. So that's more of just like creating a mindset of thinking. The next part is foundational concepts. So these are things that you will need to know just in general that you can build upon, such as understanding how to do cost-benefit analysis, understanding what risk is, understanding negotiation, and all these kind of crucial skills. So basically, it's kind of like a mindset, and then the skills that you need to use this mindset. That's basically what we want you to get out of the Minerva experience academically. And this is how we do it. So basically in your first year, you will take these 4 Cornerstone courses. And basically each one, again, is targeting those 4 things that we talked about before: communication, critical thinking, creative thinking, and effective interaction. So for example, form analysis is basically how to use statistics, how to understand coding, how to understand mathematics and rational and logical thinking. You'll have a lot of different practice in that. Empirical analysis is how to think creatively. One of my favorite things was we studied how pandemics worked. And this was, what, 5 years ago when I first took this class, and it's been very, very helpful now because I understand pandemics really well. So that was a funny little skill that we learned. But basically, it's also how to research and how to generate hypotheses and test them, how to have a little bit of that kind of scientific background. The next part is multimodal communication, which is, again, what I talked about before, learning how to read and write effectively, how to communicate, how to understand visual and audio mediums and how they change based on context and audience and all these different things. And then the last one, complex systems, which was my personal favorite class, is all about people. So again, we're understanding how people think, how people interact, how there can be multiple different things that go into a problem, how to understand those multiple different things and overcome them. So again, these 4 things are your foundations, basically. So we call it foundation year, which is your first year at Minerva. And you have to take these 4 classes, and they're mandatory. The whole point of them, again, is to build that mindset and those skills that we were talking about. The next 3 years afterwards, you're able to take any kind of class that you want to. You're able to kind of meld your degree, whether it's, you know, business or mathematics or politics or philosophy or anything you really want to study, is you can go and study afterwards. But this first year is mandatory because it helps you build those foundations that you will need regardless of what academic field you'll be in, regardless of what career profession you'll be in as well. If you're able to both code, understand how to conduct research, communicate well, and understand people, you will be flying, I can guarantee you, through any sort of job sector. And it's really helpful for you to be able to present all of those skills. Whereas if you had just studied science, for example, or you had just studied philosophy, for example, you wouldn't have gotten those kind of skills in all those other different disciplines as well. So that's why we do what we do. How we do what we do is very, very different. So basically, how we teach at Minerva is probably the biggest thing that attracts people. When we're trying to make global leaders and global citizens, we think that you have to be able to see the world in order to understand it and in order to impact it. So we make sure that you see the world. Basically, within your 4 years at Minerva, you will study in 7 different cities all across the world. These cities are San Francisco in the US, Seoul in Korea, Hyderabad in India, Berlin in Germany, Buenos Aires in Argentina, London in the UK, and Taipei in Taiwan. So basically what happens is you're going to have 4 months in each city where you live with the same group of people. So you're able to make friends in your first city, and then that group, that cohort that you'll be with travels with you to all these different places, which means you'll be able to travel the world with your friends, which in my experience was very, very fun. But basically you're able to kind of live in that city for the 4 months and really kind of immerse and get to know the people, get to know the city, get to know the culture. And we believe that you'll be able to understand the world more and effectively make an impact because you've seen more of the world as well. So that's kind of why we do that. And like I said, if you have any questions about it, feel free to put them in the chat and I will get to them at the end, because I know this is very exciting, but a lot of people usually have questions about it as well. So yes, that's a global rotation. It follows that exact rotation as well. Like I said, 4 months in each city, and then you have 4 months in San Francisco at the end, just to tie it together. And that's the whole global experience as well. So while you're having the global experience, basically what we do is we combine 3 different aspects. The first part is structured courses. So for example, you're able to take your academic courses in whatever you're interested in, but you're allowed to take multiple different things. So for example, I am a social science major, which means I concentrated mainly in the social science field. I did, economics and politics and philosophy and psychology. But I was also allowed to take lots of different things. So I took some coding classes, I took some art classes, I took, some natural science classes. Basically, we have your courses so you're able to specialize, but you're also able to take lots of different things. So if you have multiple interests, or if you are doing something that you think it would really benefit you to take courses in another discipline, you're not only able to do that, but you're encouraged to do that, because we think the more that you study in lots of different disciplines, the kind of better you are to approach a problem, because again, you have this kind of tailored mindset that's going to be very unique. You're not just coming from a computer science kind of lens, you're coming from a computer science lens and a philosophy lens and a biological lens. You can take all these different things, and it's going to help you understand a problem a lot better. The next part is active learning, which basically means that we do online seminars. That isn't just because of the pandemic. We've been doing online seminars our entire time at Minerva. So the entire 4 years that I was there, it was online classes, and this was 5 years ago. Overall was when I started. But basically the reason that we do that is so that you can study in all these different places, and then you take your classes online. But it's not like a Zoom class or a Teams class or whatever you've been using to learn during the pandemic. We have a specifically tailored platform that we have specifically created and designed for learning and for teaching. So that way you're not just kind of on a Zoom call listening in, it's actually active, which basically means that you are able to talk the entire time. You are supposed to talk the entire time. So don't think you can just turn it on and stay in bed, because that won't fly. You're going to have to be able to speak and to answer questions, and not only answer questions, but have a good answer too, because that's how you're going to be graded. So the whole structure of the active learning is basically to encourage you to learn and to really think deeply about the material and the readings and the concepts that you're learning in class. If you have any questions about that, again, put that in the chat and we'll come to the end. We'll come to the questions at the end. And yes, like I said, the class technology is taught by the Forum. I'm going to see if we can play a video now. I'm not sure if the audio will work, but we'll try. Just to show you kind of what our online platform looks like. So this is a video. I don't know if it'll work, but I'll start playing it. And if you can't hear any noise, let me know and we can just skip that. But for now, I'm just going to play it.
The Active Learning Forum is the Unexpected Learning Forum. the place where you're constantly engaging with what you're learning.
I think people expect it to be unnatural, maybe a bit futuristic and incredibly different experience than a normal classroom. And in many ways it isn't. It's the same.
As a Minerva student, I get to take classes from anywhere in the city. I think it's a great opportunity to constantly keep your learning experience fresh and exciting.
I was pleasantly surprised in my first experience on the Active Learning Forum. It's interactive, very dynamic, very fast-paced.
Everyone agrees that higher education could be much better than it is today. Minerva's by putting together state-of-the-art technology and superb pedagogy.
What we're going to do today is use a very complex problem, how to feed the world by 2050.
One of the great strengths of Minerva is the Active Learning Forum, which is informed by the science of learning. The secret to active learning is engagement.
Do you agree or disagree that the 5 solutions will be sufficient to solve the world's food problem?
We have at our fingertips tools that are designed to engage the students 100% of the time.
Now we're going to do a poll. Pick your best answer and be prepared to defend it.
I do agree that the other parts of this poll were valid.
Active learning is being an important part of your own education, challenging ideas and coming to your own understanding.
It means that I'm constantly accountable. I feel like when you characterize a problem, it's important that it helps guide you to the solution.
Perfect, that's excellent. I feel like I'm in a room with all of my students. I simply forget I'm on the computer. You will be going into breakout groups. In each of your breakout groups, you will get assignment.
In a normal classroom, there's people behind you, there's people to the side of you, but it's nice to be able to see everybody and their reactions to what's being talked about in class.
You are Group A, you will be the Minister of Agriculture.
Yeah, agriculture, let's do it.
What does it mean to increase the food supply? So it means decrease food waste.
So for example, if we reduce the amount of grazed land in transition.
All of Minerva's classes are taught in the seminar format with a maximum of 18 students. I know each one of my students better than I knew students when I taught at a major university. Hazik, you're shaking your head. What do you have something to add?
Well, I think the first solution that immediately comes to mind is...
The classes are designed so that you actually have more interaction with your professor.
It's a very open, dynamic, and friendly relationship.
It's the kind of learning where we're an active participant instead of passive recipient. Both the student and teacher are engaged in not only dialogue, but debate and role play. And it's so much more fun than a traditional class.
What is really powerful about the forum is no student is in the back row. The professor can simply look at the screen and call on the students who are not participating as much and bring them into the discussions. Let's hear from Guillaume.
I think that the purpose of the incentives...
My favorite part is that the professors are able to watch the recordings of the class, which means that they can do very specifically tailored feedback.
The technology really helps professors get more quantitative and qualitative data about how a student's performing across all classes and use that in office hours.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Dean Shannon. Thanks.
Good. Did you have any?
I thought it was the students who had to put effort into reaching out to the professor, but here the professor was taking a really, really active role. And I think that was a function of the technology we used.
We have technology. We have knowledge about how the mind works. We can do things with education that has simply never been possible before. And that's what we're trying to do at Minerva.
We are the only school in the world that uses the science of learning to design not just what we teach, but how we teach it. Doesn't get better than that.
I'm here at Minerva because I want to be a part of an important movement to change higher education.
The fact that Minerva students live and study together adds another dimension to the classroom. Having that human interaction really strengthens the online class experience.
Our education needs to be dynamic, it needs to be interactive, it needs to prepare us for the needs of an increasingly complex world.
I feel part of an incredible community. this is the only place that I'm excited about my learning.
So there we are. I know that was quite a long video, but I do think it's important to watch just because, especially with this pandemic, everyone has their own assumptions of what online learning is and what online learning looks like. And I can guarantee you, as someone who's currently doing her master's at another university that uses a very, very different form of online learning, we use Teams. It's very, very different from what Minerva uses because, like I said, Minerva has literally built this forum for teaching and for learning itself. If you have any other questions about that, feel free to put them in the chat. This is also on Minerva's YouTube. So if you look Minerva Schools at KGI up on YouTube, you can watch lots of different other videos about, you know, student experiences in all these different countries or student experiences on the forum, and you can kind of see what the platform looks like a little bit more if you're interested. So that's that basically. These are some of our classes and some of our concentrations. We have some more as well. These are just ones that I personally really liked. So if you're interested in learning more, again, there's more information on the website of all the other courses that we have. But this kind of just gives you an overview of the different things that are involved in different, we call them colleges basically, but these 5 colleges, these 5 different fields. Basically what happens is you can kind of take a major within them, which means you concentrate and you can learn whatever that aspect is. So for example, if you wanted to specialize in arts and humanities, you could say, I want to specialize in historical trends in the humanities, that third one in the first row. But you can also double major and double concentrate. So double concentrating means that you can do, you know, multiple things. You could say, okay, I want to do historical trends in the humanities, but I also want to do arts and commerce. You can do both of them. That's what double concentrating is. Or you can double major, which means you can kind of pick 2 of the different colleges. So for example, again, you could say, I want to study historical trends in the humanities, but I also really want to do applied problem solving, which is in the computational sciences. So you're able to do both, basically. And you can take lots of different electives as well. So you can take lots of different classes within all these different things. So it's very much an interdisciplinary type of learning. And we encourage you to learn as much as possible from all these different fields. So that's why we do it like that. So if this sounds really interesting to you, then I will tell you who we're looking for at Minerva. Basically, we're looking for challenge seekers. I'll go back to this video in a second because it's a fun little way to end. We're looking for challenge seekers. We're looking for those people who are diverse and unique, people who stand out in their community, people who want to make a difference, maybe already have made a difference in their communities, people who are curious about learning, people who, you know, want to learn, people who want to make an impact, people who are driven, ambitious, who have experience of that. People who are inspired by solving problems, and again, just making the world a better place. It sounds cheesy, but that's exactly who we're looking for. So if this sounds like you, then we encourage you to apply. Basically, this is kind of some of our admissions data from previously. You know, we have quite a lot of applicants from all over the world. We had 180 people, 180 countries, just that we had people apply from last year. We've quite a low admissions rate, so it's less than 1% at the moment. When I applied, it was 1.9%, so it's usually been quite low in general, but that doesn't mean that you aren't going to get in. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply. I definitely don't see myself as someone special, you know, I'm just kind of a person from Ireland, and I ended up getting in because I want to make the world a better place, and I'm ambitious, and I guess I was the kind of person that they were looking for. So that might be you too. So don't let that throw you off. Most of the people who end up attending Minerva don't know why they were chosen. They're all very humble, which is really sweet. But you know, if this is something you're interested in, you know, there's no application fee, there's no standardized test required. So I really do encourage you to apply. It's kind of nothing to lose. So apply anyway, and you'll be able to hear back and see if you got in, you know. So yes, usually from all of the different countries that apply, we have about 68% enrollment, which means usually there's about 50 to 60 different countries represented, which means you're going to have a very, very international experience, not just with the places that you go to, but within your student body as well, because everyone is from a different place. So, you know, even though we don't have a kind of campus in Nigeria, for example, you could have a classmate from Nigeria, and then they would be able to tell you all about their culture. And we do lots of different like culture nights where a student would share their culture, and you can kind of learn about it. It's probably one of my favorite things. There's lots of different like student events that encourage culture sharing and encourage sharing of different, you know, experiences and things like that. So yeah, it's a very, very, very international experience. So if that's something that you are interested in and looking for, then again, I encourage you to apply. So we also have need-based financial aid as well. I should mention that. So basically, that means that when you apply to Minerva, you can also apply for financial aid, and it's need blind, which means that the financial aid team and the admissions team, they don't talk to each other. So, you know, if you need aid, that's not going to impact whether or not you get in. They're completely separate. But we do need based, again, financial aid, which means that if you qualify for aid, then you will get it, basically. There's no kind of, it's not based on merit. It's not based on, you know, if you're really good at sports. It's just based if you need it. And quite a lot of people are on aid. There was 80% of my class were all on some form of financial aid. So it's not kind of this very rare thing. In fact, it's actually quite common for almost everyone to be on some form of financial support from Minerva. So again, if you think this is like my dream school, but I don't know if I could afford it, then again, I encourage you to apply first of all. And if you get in, apply for financial aid as well, because you'll most likely get it, in all honesty. If you qualify for it, if you need it, you will get it. So that's something that is important to keep in mind as well. Just to run through the actual merit-based application. Basically, our application, like I said, there's no standardized tests. So, for example, a lot of the US universities, which Minerva is, even though it's an international university, it is a US university, but we don't require SATs. So you don't have to do the SATs to apply to Minerva. Your results and your test results from Italian schools, Italian high schools, is perfectly enough. Just submit them to us and that's fine. If you have SATs, if you've done it anyway, because you are applying to US schools, then I encourage you to also say that. For example, I come from Ireland, and, you know, I was applying to US schools, so I had done the SATs, but I didn't need them for Minerva, but I included them anyway, just to show that I, you know, had this extra thing that I did and it was helpful. So you can put them in, but they're not required, is basically what I would say to that. We have no quotas or no enrollment cap, so which basically means that, you know, we're not looking for a certain amount of people from a certain amount of country, whoever, and we don't have a certain amount of people that we will let in as well. So whoever qualifies for Minerva will get in, regardless of where they come from and regardless of how many people we already have, you know, which means that the class sizes are different every year. You know, so when I was there was 160 of us. The year above, there was 120. The year below, there were about 320. So it changes every year, just depending on how many people apply and how many people get in, basically. So again, that's just some information about the application process itself. With regards to the actual application, there's 3 parts. The first part is like basic info, which means like, you know, your name, your contact information, your school, your grades, the kind of thing that you would put into any normal application. The second part is a series of challenges, which basically is it's kind of like a test. It's the only test you'll ever do at Minerva, because we don't actually do exams. There's no exams at Minerva. It's all essay based. So yeah, that's one thing that's really nice. I haven't had to do an exam in the last 5 years, which is nice. But basically this test is basically just like a series of puzzles that you have to solve. And it basically tells us how you think and how you respond to problems, and it helps us to understand if you would be a good fit for the academic style of learning at Minerva. So don't worry too much about it. It's actually really fun. It's kind of like a game. So I liked solving puzzles when I was doing it. So it's quite fun, which is nice. And then the part 3 is accomplishments, which if you are interested in applying, I do like an accomplishments workshop where I can kind of guide you through how to write your achievements. But basically it's just kind of what you've achieved in the past, what kind of extracurriculars you've done, what after school activities you've done, any clubs, any societies that you're part of, any awards you've won, things like that. But it's just kind of what you have achieved or something that you're proud of, basically. And that helps us to understand who you are as a person, because again, we look at your grades, and your grades are important, but they're not the only thing that's important for us. We want to know who you are and how you think, and that's basically, you know, something that's really important to us as well. So the more you can kind of tell us, the better, because then we're able to make our decision of whether or not you would be a good fit for the community. So that's basically how we do that. And that is kind of the end of the overall presentation. I'll come back to the video at the end because it's my favorite thing to do, so we'll get to that in a second. But if you are interested in Minerva, then basically this is the application deadlines. We're on regular decision 2 at the moment, which means that the next deadline is March 15th, and it's the last deadline as well for this year. So if you are interested in joining Minerva this September, this fall, then you will have to apply by March 15th, which is, you know, in a couple of weeks. So, you know, you can do the application in a day if you really wanted to. It's not that long, but you do need kind of like your letters from teachers and things as well. So I do encourage you to apply ASAP if this is something you're interested in. I'll leave my email address at the very end of the presentation, so you can kind of copy that down. If you have any questions or any concerns or anything like that, I can help you with that. And basically, if you apply by March 15th, you will know by April 16th whether or not you get in. Whether you get in isn't conditional either. You're either in or you're out. So you'll be able to kind of make your decision by then. And the enrollment deadline to make that decision is May 1st. If Minerva is your top priority as well, you can also pick binding enrollment. It doesn't affect whether or not you'll get in. There's no higher likelihood of getting in if you pick binding. The only difference is it basically means that you will hear first, which means you'll hear within a month. But within regular decision 2, it's within a month anyway, so it's not too much of a pressure to pick binding. But that's kind of the overall very, very quick presentation. I wanted to give as much time for questions as possible because I know that is when things really do come up. But before I close this off, I'm going to go back, if I can figure out how to use this presentation, and go back to, there we go, back to the video, just because this video was made by one of my classmates and one of my good friends. So she and I traveled the world together. She was in my class of 2020, and I think she summed it up really well. It's a letter from a Minerva student to prospective Minerva students. So it just kind of gives you a glimpse of what life looks like at Minerva. So we'll watch this and then we'll get to the questions. Oh, there we go.
Dear potential Minerva student, I can imagine how you're feeling. Maybe excitement, maybe nerves, but most likely curiosity as to what it's really like to be a Minerva student. My name is Liberty, and I'm a second year student from London. When I got into Minerva, I was taking a gap year from academics. I soon realized that in a year of traveling and working around Europe and Asia, I learned more than I'd ever learned in school, whether it was from locals showing me real problems they'd faced or trying to learn to code on rainy days. The world felt bigger and more accessible to me than it had ever done before. So I packed up my stuff and gave up my place at traditional university and headed to San Francisco, not knowing what to expect. And I have never looked back. But before I go on, I want to say that Minerva isn't for everyone, and I encourage you to think seriously about whether it's right for you. There are sacrifices. You have to be prepared to engage actively with the city. It's definitely no campus bubble. You have to be prepared to see your family mainly through FaceTime. You have to be prepared to take on a demanding academic schedule, and you have to be prepared to move to a new city every semester. But if you're up for the challenge, you are in for an adventure. You'll be embraced into a community like no other. You'll join clubs, initiate your own projects. You'll make local friends and try local food. You'll learn from your mistakes. You'll plan. You'll plan your next assignment, your next trip, your next city. You'll find people who share your passions, and you'll try things you never thought you'd do before. You'll get lost, but along the way, you'll find the most incredible lookout spot. If you choose Minerva, you are choosing the road less traveled. But if you crave an educational institution full of possibility and adventure, you are truly choosing the road for you.
Yes, and that is us then. I'll just skip to the very last part. So thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, we can come to that now. But yeah, thank you so much for listening.
So thank you so much, Antonia. It was very interesting. And if I be younger, I believe that I would apply. But it's too late for me. Of course, there are some questions from Denise. And Denise, I can give you, like, I can allow you to talk. So let's see so that you can ask Antonia your questions. Denise, do you hear me? Otherwise, I can read the questions on your behalf. I just made a picture. I took a picture of the questions, and basically Denise's questions were also mine. So, how many students are there in total? And we've seen it. It's about 138, if I'm not wrong. Am I right?
No, that was 138. That was just in 1 year. So like I said,
okay. This is okay.
That's per year.
The total. Okay, she was asking about the total.
Yes, so per year, like I said, we don't have a enrollment cap, which basically means it changes every single year. But usually it's between like 120 to 300. Sometimes is usually the biggest size that we would have.
So how many students travel from city to city together?
The whole class. So for example, if there was last year there was 138 in the class, the 138 all live together and they all travel together as well. So they travel to each of the different cities and then live in the same place as well.
Sure. And then in this COVID-19 period, where are the students this year?
Yes, good question. Okay, so with COVID, obviously things were kind of up in the air. The one good thing about Minerva in terms of COVID was our learning was already online, so that didn't impact students' academic experience at all. As someone who was, I was still studying when COVID hit in 2020, it was nice that my classes hadn't changed and I had that kind of structure and stability, which was nice. But in terms of where they are now, basically what we did, which we don't normally allow, is that students were allowed to go to any city that they wanted to within our rotation. So normally they have to follow the set rotation. They can't go to a different city. But we allowed students from different classes to go to different cities this year because some of our cities were closed due to government restrictions and some of them were open. So basically we just allowed students to either stay at home in their own countries and study from home, or they could go to the open cities. And the open cities that we had this year in 2020 were London, Berlin, and San Francisco. And then now we have San Francisco and I think that's the only one that's currently open as of now. We would normally in the spring semester have Buenos Aires, San Francisco, Taipei, and Hyderabad, India. But they're all currently closed. And when I say closed, I mean the entire border of the country is closed, so we can't have students flying in, which is obviously outside of our control. So most students are either in San Francisco right now, or they are working from home, studying from home. So yes, that's kind of currently where they are now.
Okay, so a couple more questions from Denise. And the first one is, does Minerva help find housing for the students?
Yes, so when I said that they all live together, Minerva provides that housing. So usually it's either, it can be in an apartment complex and students have their own apartments and they'll share it with classmates, or it could be dormitory situation where, you know, we hire out the entire dorm, and then students have, you know, a dormitory each, or maybe they might have a roommate. But basically in every single city, Minerva provides the housing, and it's Minerva students only, it's exclusively, so that, you know, for safety reasons, it's only ever Minerva students in the building. And yes, so they all live together, and that's kind of the point as well. So even though you're taking your classes online, you can close your laptop and look to your roommate and, you know, talk about class, or you can go down the hall and go into the kitchen and talk about class with another classmate. So you all live together to kind of give it that human experience too.
Okay. Thank you. And then last question is about the accreditation of the degree.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, or?
Yeah. Do you receive a US accredited degree?
Yes. So the degree is fully accredited, and it's accepted, you know, globally. It's a US accreditation. It's WASC, like WASC. I can't remember what it stands for as of now, but if you send me an email, I can get you the specific accreditation. I'll have to look at my diploma. But basically, it's fully accredited. You can use it to go on to, you know, apply to jobs. You can go on to different grad schools. We have students at grad schools all over the world, some in the US, some in Europe, some everywhere. I myself am at a grad school currently. You don't have to go to a grad school, it's just if you want to. But it, you know, kind of shows and proves that this is accepted and accredited. But yes, you'll either receive a bachelor's of science or a bachelor's of arts, depending on what degree that you choose, but it's a fully accredited degree.
Okay. And I had a question about, so you mentioned that COVID-19 didn't really didn't really affect I mean, the way you were taking classes.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we saw in the video is like what regularly happens. So you go, so you take classes in person and then also online. Am I right? Or is everything, I mean, is it blended or completely online?
Yeah, it's completely online.
It's completely online, okay.
Yeah. What you saw in the video was just people after class discussing informally, but the classes themselves are completely online.
Completely online, okay. I thought that maybe there were like local professor teaching, giving classes. It's not.
No, I mean, sometimes professors will come and visit the cities, and, you know, go out to lunch with students, but all classes are online all the time.
I see.
And so I have a question about professors. Do they adjust to the different time zones? Is it them that, I mean, do classes at night if the students have a time shift?
Mm-hmm.
So when do you have classes? I mean, it's not like San Francisco time anywhere in the world. So I guess maybe who adjusts more, professors or students?
Neither, which is great. So basically, your classes depend on where you are in the city. So we have professors that are from the US, but we also have professors from, you know, Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from all these different places who are based in all these different places, which works really well for us because it means that when students are based in, you know, Hyderabad, or they're based in Berlin, for example, they're usually matched with professors who are also based in either the same region or a region where the time suits. So we have professors from all over the world, really fantastic professors, if I might say. Like, I was very impressed with the quality. But the reason that we allow professors from all over the world is to help with the time zones. And then whatever city you are in, your classes will be based on that time zone. So for example, when you are in Seoul, it'll be, you know, maybe 9 a.m. till 3 p.m., which is like normal times for classes. And for the professors, they can say like a certain time that they'll be willing to teach. So for example, if they want to teach at 7 p.m, they can do that and they can sign that up, and they'll probably be assigned to a place where 7 a.m. is like 9 a.m. or something like that. But basically, professors don't have to teach at night and students don't have to take classes at night. It's completely scheduled so that both.
Perfect system. They thought about everything. I have an additional question about Education USA scholarship that if I remember correctly, you brought up the last time we talked. So what is it exactly? How can students benefit from this particular scholarship, and what is it?
Yes, it's a good thing you brought that up. I completely forgot to mention that. So yes, for all Education USA participants, we have a scholarship available, and it's 10,000, and that will be applied to either your tuition or your accommodation or things like that. And basically what you just do is write that you are an Education USA scholar within your application. You'll be automatically eligible for it. And basically it's a draw. So of all the Education USA applicants from all over the world, whoever puts it in, basically your name will be put into a draw and you will have the chance to win the scholarship. But I wouldn't worry too much about it, because if you qualify for aid anyway, you'll get aid anyway. So it's more of just like a bonus.
Okay, thank you. That's great anyway for students. And of course you will be renewed for each year you study there, right?
I think so. I'll have to check with you on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, but as you said, good students that are admitted find a way to have financial aid anyway. So it's just
completely. And financial aid is renewed every single year as well. So there's no kind of worries with that. I can send you more information about the Education USA scholarship specifically, so you can kind of share it out to people who are interested.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure. And okay. I don't know if
I'm really glad that we recorded the presentation, because it was great. Thank you. You
of course
really inspired me, and I'm sure all the students that I mean, we have questions on Minerva and we give some answers, but of course having you, we now know much more about it, and we could also share the video for additional info. And do you think we could also give your email to students who want to actually apply? Or
definitely, it's right there in the bottom corner, aborman@minerva.kgi.edu. I will also just put it in the chat right now, just so that you can copy and paste more easily. If I can, okay, it's not letting me go into the chat while I'm sharing my screen, but it's there at the bottom, and then I'll put it in the chat just before I leave, so that you'll be able to share it with students. And I'm here for,
we can see on the cover of your presentation.
But feel free to connect them with me, and I can answer any questions that they might have, and if I can answer them, I'll connect them with someone who can. So yeah, happy to be connected.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Were there any other questions so far?
No.
Okay, wonderful. I will, hold on, I'll stop the screen sharing there, and then write my email in the chat just so people can copy and paste. It's going to be a lot easier, I know, than just having to screenshot from a presentation. There we go. Okay, wonderful. Well, we're right on time as well. That's great. That timed really, really well. I'm so glad you've recorded it as well, because I know it can be really helpful just like be able to watch a video. But if anyone's watching this recording currently, feel free to email me. Happy to answer questions afterwards, even if it's a month later, a year later, whatever. But yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been so wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. It was a great presentation, and your university also is super. Thank you.
Of course. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Very much.
Okay. Well, in that case, I will have to say goodbye, because I have another presentation in 5 minutes, but thank you so much for having me again, and again, feel free to contact me whenever with any questions.
Thank you. We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.